Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of People of Clubhouse. My guest today, Dr. Nancy Shipley, is a surgeon. She's the lady surgeon who fixes people's bones. Am I right, Dr. Nancy?
Yes, that's right. I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
And usually, when we think of that, we don't think of a sweet woman like you. We usually think of this huge doctor who is, very strong in order to be able to do that. So, how does it feel being a lady surgeon in such a field that is probably male dominated?
Yes, and I part of what I do is I try to change the public perception of what an orthopedic surgeon is. And granted, that stereotype is there for a reason. It's majority men, and there's also it's a physical job, but there's also a misconception that you have to be 6'4" and a bodybuilder and an ex-football player. I should say American football player. Right, because that's different than what the rest of the world knows as football. And I would say that it's not true. I have so many colleagues that are women, and I'm 5'7", and I have colleagues who are much shorter, much more petite than me, who are amazing surgeons, and so it's been an interesting path for me, being in the minority in my field, but I think that you take certain things with a grain of salt. You speak up when you feel like you need to speak up, and then you work hard, and you try to set a good example, and also set a good path for those who follow.
And did you face any difficulties at the start of your career, being maybe the only woman or one of two or three women, a minority among the team you were working with, for example, in the hospitals or the institutions you worked for?
I think where I probably encountered the most pushback was when I first decided to go into the field, because I would when you're in medical school and you're in your third year, your fourth year, and you're deciding what specialty to go into, people are always asking, well, what are you going to do? And I would say, well, I found orthopedic surgery, and I love it, so that's what I'm going to apply to. And that's where I got the most comments, like, oh, well, girls don't usually do that, women don't usually do that, or you might have trouble finding a husband, and I said, well, I'm not choosing my career based on finding a husband, and other relatively, legitimate concerns that women have going into a surgical field, as far as family planning, and determining when to have children and the timing of that. But that's also a very personal decision, and
Exactly.
so it's always interesting. When someone says, oh, I'm going to go into orthopedic surgery, well, what about, how are you going to figure out when to have kids? And I'm thinking, this is none of your business,
Exactly.
whether I have kids or when, So I think that's when I got a lot of pushback from 99% of the time people who were not in orthopedics. And when I did talk to those in my field, the vast majority were incredibly supportive. I will share one anecdote of when I was rotating as a medical student, and we do these audition rotations where we spend time with another hospital that we're not normally at. You rotate there for a month, and it's a chance for you to get to know the program, to see if you want to go do your training there, and for them to evaluate you. And I remember my first day, I was in New York at a hospital, and it wasn't one of the surgeons, it was one of the physician assistants, a male, said to me before surgery, he said, now, young lady, if you start to get faint when we start the surgery, I don't want you to pass out, because it's a lot of paperwork.
Oh my God.
So if you start to get faint, you lean up against a wall. And I was shocked, but I'm also in a position where I'm a student, I'm it's hard for me to...
And you're auditioning, so you better, you're trying to be on your best self.
it's an awkward position, right? And but I said, I'm fairly certain I won't pass out, seeing as how this is what I chose my future career to be. And that's all I said. But I think it was effective, and I didn't report him. I didn't throw a fit. I kind of made a mental note, and said, okay, well, there's one person who has that attitude towards women here. Let me evaluate and see what the rest of the climate is like.
And the challenge sometimes gives you the steam to go forward. Like if we face difficulties in our work, it actually makes it all the more enjoyable when you overcome those challenges and prove that you are stronger and that you cross that boundary. I'm sure that's how you felt when one day you actually became a surgeon. And now I'm sure you want to see that man face to face and tell him, well, okay, here I am.
Right. I don't have anything to prove to him. I don't even remember his name, but and he's like one of a couple that have made comments to me. And again, he's not the surgeon. He was an assistant, and
Okay.
And another notable individual who said, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. You can't do this. You don't have the skills. You're not going to be good at it." Was one of the OB-GYNs, an obstetrician that I rotated with as a medical student. He also made the comment that he wanted to go into orthopedics but decided against it. And
Okay. So you must be very busy, with surgeries and so on. We caught you actually you're talking to me now from your car going to a surgery.
Yes.
So how do you find the time for your... I'm sorry, say again?
I'm multitasking.
You have to, yeah, I can imagine. So when do you find the time for Clubhouse and for your podcast and for empowering all those women you talk to on your podcast? How do you organize your day? Where do you find the time?
It does take a lot of organization, and I rely heavily on my iCal in my iPhone, and I use a hybrid system with paper because I find that when I actually put pen to paper, it helps me stay a little bit better organized. And so, it's a matter of not only organization but also prioritization, because it's very easy to get pulled in a number of different directions. And as you know, the more time you spend on these various platforms and you get to make these amazing connections, the more opportunities come up, the more asks come up of your time to either collaborate or participate in different things. And and I always tell people I wish I could clone myself, because I'm really
the same here.
I'm a helper, I am a connector, and I really would just love to do it all. And sometimes we do have to prioritize, and it's hard for me to say no, but I'm getting better at it. And saying no in a gracious way.
But it's also very important for our mental health to be able to branch out intellectually, not focus 100% energy on one thing, on our work only. And it always helps to connect on a human level. So, which brings me to the question about your podcast. You call it the 6%.
Yep.
What is the 6%?
So I named my podcast the 6% because, and it's named after the percentage of women practicing in orthopedic surgery.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
There are only 6% women right now, more in training, which is promising. And my podcast focuses on interviews with women in traditionally male-dominated fields, women who are groundbreakers, trailblazers, and even though I named it after my specific field and a number associated with that, I talk to women in a multiple number of different career fields, ranging from Major League Baseball to Hollywood filmmakers to people in law, people in tech, in STEM. And so I talk to these women in varied fields, and we it turns out we have some very common experiences, even though we're in disparate fields.
Amazing. And so our listeners now who are listening to us from all over the world can contact you. We're going to be putting a link to your website, to your podcast. When they contact
Thank
you,
you.
what do you want them? Thank you. You're welcome. So when they contact you, what do you want them to offer you? How can they help you? Can they come on your show? Can they connect you with somebody? What do you need people to contact you for?
I am always so grateful for just people who will listen and share these very important stories and these very important tips and pearls that they learn about on the podcast. And so I would ask everyone listening to please download and subscribe, and also share the news. But if your listeners also know of any amazing women who are thriving in traditionally male-dominated fields,
Sure.
women who are the first to do something like yourself,
Thank you.
I would love to connect. I am always looking for interesting people to speak with on the podcast.
Amazing.
I'm always open to collaborations and partnerships in other ways as well, in conjunction with the 6% concept. I'm writing a book. I'm working on a more visual format of the 6% in early stages right now. So always looking to kind of expand the reach of these stories.
Amazing. We will definitely do that. Other guests on this show also have similar interests, and they might be able to be connected to you and to cooperate. So definitely I'm going to connect you. Dr. Nancy, I don't want to take too much of your time now that you have to focus on your surgery. Thank you so much for giving me the time for this interview and for joining us on the show. And I look forward to hosting you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome and have a wonderful day. Everybody, thank you very
you.
much for tuning in. I'm Sahar and I'm done speaking.